Okay, well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. It is the 13th, a little bit fascinating. We were just wrapping up our Denver South meeting up north, and of course the topic was homelessness and affordable housing. So one of the questions was, how is Douglas County doing it? And the answer that I provide is you all. I think it's this homeless initiative and your commitment to what we're trying to do here that has been so significant in terms of the regional success that we've had. Before we get going too far, I wanted to just begin with introductions. If we can start here on the end.
I'm Melody DeHalicourt. I'm the Community Programs Administrator for Douglas County.
Tiffany Marcito with the Heart Team.
Deputy Brad Schramm with the Sheriff's Office.
Mike Wade, Executive Director of the Douglas County Community Foundation.
Derek Storgard, Chief Deputy DA in Douglas County.
Jeff Garcia, County Attorney.
Kristen Reeve with the Town of Castle Rock staff.
Hi, good morning. Max Brooks, Castle Rock Town Council. I'm filling in for Mayor Jason Gray this morning.
Good morning, Marissa Harmon, Lone Tree City Council.
Kurt Wilson, Lone Tree PD.
Dan Marlowe, Health and Hope Center.
Good morning, Erin White, Manta Rays Center.
Michael Levis, The Rock.
Ellis Fossler, Douglas County Probation.
Cameron County Department of Human Services.
Darren Weekly, Sheriff of Douglas County.
Jennifer Eby, Douglas County staff.
Abe Layton, Commissioner.
Brandon Clark, Douglas County staff, and we do have some guests online.
Okay, great. Welcome. Who do we have online?
Kevin Rance, Castle Pines City Council.
Amy Edwards, Douglas County Attorney's Office.
Great, welcome. And then for those seated in, oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. Hi, good morning. Maria Chano, Douglas County Housing Partnership.
Hi, Maria. And then for those seated, oh, there are more. Right, okay, my bad. It's like a call-in user. Welcome. Anybody else online?
Good morning, Commissioner Layden. This is Wendy Holmes. I'm on the phone.
Okay, hi, Wendy. And then for those in the back row who should probably be here seated at the table if we had more chairs, you guys are important folks.
Laura Sanconi, Douglas County Mental Health Initiative Coordinator.
Nicole Adams, Human Services.
Greg Matthews, Heart Team.
Will Pepper, Heart Team. Tiffany Ward, the Douglas County Sheriff.
Nicole Beckett, Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Reintegration Administrator.
The Hendricksville Health Network.
Hi everyone, my name is Elise. I am the Youth and Family Liaison with the Douglas County CFP.
Morning, Jody Crow from the Crisis Center.
Megan Tran, Douglas County School District.
I'm Cody Anderson, a pastor at Parker United Methodist Church. Karen Carbox, a nobody.
Can I second that? I'll be a nobody. My name is Scott. I work at Highlands Ranch Metro District Parks and Park Ranger and Open Space Supervisor.
I'm Sandy Holcomb. I Park Ranger for Highlands Ranch.
Well, welcome everyone. And then, sir.
Cameron Shropshire, Bradford County Government. We share orders and referrals. So
It's wonderful. We're so glad that you're here. And I know that we were expecting some Denver City Council staff to be here today. We know that there are some active conversations with the new mayorship in terms of how Denver is addressing homelessness. We're really looking forward to providing a little bit of an update for our colleagues and welcome to the partnership. I don't know that we have anybody from Denver here yet.
He's running a few minutes late.
A few minutes late. So I think what I will do is forego my comments until my colleagues from Denver also arrive here and just move forward with the Douglas County Attorney's Office.
Great, thanks everybody. So Jeff Garcia from the Douglas County Attorney's Office. I'm going to talk a little bit about the camping ban that was passed last month. We've got lots of questions, lots and lots of questions. Some good questions, some bad questions, some people who were kind of questioning our motives in this and others who are like, how can we do this too? Which is great. So why don't we move forward? So on the 27th, Douglas County passed unanimously an approval to ban unauthorized camping and structures on public property. What that means to different groups differs. So instead of going over the presentation that I did on the 27th, I want to talk about the questions that we received. If you want to see that presentation, you may have already seen it. It was part of our business meeting, but that business meeting is available too. It's a broad, kind of more legal analysis of why we did it and our background and authority for doing it, but I really want to address public questions about the ban. So the law has two parts: no camping on public property without written permission, and no temporary structures on public property without written permission. The big exception that exists as of today is that there is no enforcement on the camping ban portion, that first part, not the second part, just the first part, if there's no available shelter, alternative shelter available. The temporary structure, regardless of the shelter requirement, is enforceable. A violator can be fined up to $1,000. So let's move forward. So one of the questions is, oh, well, this is Douglas County figuring out another way to get $1,000 from people. This is not a revenue stream, right? The people that maybe this enforced against are not people that we're seeking to receive funds from. That's not our goal. Our goal is to make sure that people have notice of what is expected in our community, that people who need assistance are getting assistance and being contacted with assistance, that there's lawful housing alternatives, and that the public spaces that are available for everyone in the community are safe and open for everyone to use. We don't want people not feeling comfortable in our open spaces and parks. Why are we doing this when there's a small amount of homeless people in Douglas County, or small amount of people who might be using public space for camping? It's to codify what a public expectation is, that our parks and open spaces are not places for unauthorized camping, that it's one more tool to direct people towards help. And it's a very small incentive for a person who might not otherwise want to receive help to take that step to receiving the help that's available in our county and throughout the state. Okay, this is the one that we got a huge amount of questions about the following day. Well, that means you're gonna start busing people. You're loading people up on buses and kicking them out of the county. No, we don't have buses, right? We're not sending anyone on a bus, we're not giving anyone that. We're not loading anyone anywhere, we're not sending them to other counties. What we are is having our co-response teams and our heart teams, who I'm happy to have here with us, offer them help if there's a need for it, and give them a line of contact, offering them medical and mental health services, transportation to a safe place for housing, financial resources and responses when necessary, and transportation or shelter if that's necessary. But that's a later thing, right? We want to make sure people are on the right path to getting the help and support they need. We're not busing anybody. Let's move forward. Unless a bus ticket to a place they need to be and they can't otherwise afford is that alternative, right? But the idea or picture of people being loaded up on a bus and being sent to another county or another state is not something people should be thinking about with the camping ban. Well, this was done so fast, everybody said. Well, come on, you had 1 month of meetings about this, you got stuck. No, this was happening years before I even came to the county. This was happening, the conversations about this probably were happening even before the initiative was started. Helping people who are unhoused is something that has been a community need for a very long time. The Board of County Commissioners has been working on it for years. They've had multiple work sessions on it. We've received advice from this group as well as other public input. And really the tipping point is a Boulder case that we've talked about before, the Feed Forward case, that said, this is lawful to do if there are certain limitations in place. And one of those limitations was that alternative shelter. That case hasn't been completely resolved, but we do have direction from the court. And what we're trying to do is provide a lawful alternative. And that's what we're following. We're following the court's direction in this. Does this apply to private, state, or federal property? The phone call I received immediately after the business meeting is, how dare you say we can't camp on federal land? We did. We never said that. We didn't say you can't camp at Pike National Park. We didn't say that you can't camp anywhere else. It doesn't apply to private property. It doesn't apply to municipal or state or city property. It doesn't apply to parks or highways. It doesn't apply to federal property. It applies to Douglas County owned public property in unincorporated Douglas County, right? Where we are regulating our own property, we're regulating the use of our land, nowhere else. Let's go forward. Can you still camp at the fairgrounds when there's an event going on? If the lease permits it, that's expressly a written permission to use that land. So yes, if you're going to the fairgrounds for a rodeo, or you're going to the fairgrounds for the fair or some other event, and they have that space available, yes, you can camp at the fairgrounds. What if people refuse to cooperate? What if people refuse to provide written permission? What if people refuse to engage in shelter? Their refusal for help is not something that the ban permits. If you don't want to speak to law enforcement, that's per se saying it's a violation. Can a party still lease space in the county to camp or have an event? Absolutely. We want people to use in our open spaces. We want people to use our parks. We want people to do that, but we want to do so lawfully and with permission. Could it be updated in the future? Absolutely. If there's changes in the law, we will make sure that our camping ban is lawful, whether that's a change in the feed forward case or if there's additional provisions we want to add. We've contemplated fire and propane and how that might affect it, or camping near a water source, how that might affect it. So we are going to make sure that we have the best law and the best ordinance to provide for a safe use of our land in the community. Let's go for it. That's it for me. Those are the questions that we've received. I want to make sure everyone understands why we're doing it and that there's no ill intent in this, but rather that we're providing for the community and every single person in the community. The person who might be wanting to camp in a open space and the person who wants to use those open spaces freely and comfortably. So I hope that's helpful to them.
Great questions for Jeff.
Was I speaking really fast?
You have a question, Victor?
Sure.
What do you do when they are not lawful? I mean, is it like a cleanup, like a sweep type thing? I mean, are they doing that kind of thing? And that's happening in many cities. So I mean, I was on the streets on July 4th. I was going holidays. Specifically, looks like we're doing good with our social system money because there's no homeless. So I'm wondering, are we sweeping them? Like where we say we're putting them, are they have a choice or what? They've, kind of earned all their stuff they collect to live on. So what do you do when they violate a law?
So those are two different questions. If there's a violation, you can get a fine up to $1,000, a citation for a fine up to $1,000. With, if there is property that's there, maybe I can have our team speak to that a little bit when you engage someone who has a significant amount of property.
Yeah, so if they have a lot of property, they're not being arrested, if they're just getting a ticket, their property will stay with them. If for some reason they're going to be arrested, whether that's for a different violation that's outside of the ordinance, their property will be safeguarded by the sheriff's office. The responsibility gets put on us to safeguard their property, so we will hold on to that and secure it in either a jail or their evidence facility. And then when they get released, they can get it back.
So a homeless person has a $2,000 fine for camping.
And Jill, I apologize. This is only questions for the committee at this point. We'll save a public comment for the end, for sure. So for those that are members of the Douglas County Homeless Initiative, the voting block, any questions or comments for Jeff?
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, well, and part of it too, we'll go back to a brief introduction. I don't know, this is a meeting's being recorded, so certainly we can share this with our colleagues in Denver if they're running late. But we wanted to run through a little bit about what we've been as a Douglas County Homeless Initiative, and no doubt Board of County Commissioners asked Jeff to move forward with this camping ban ordinance, not only because of the precedent set in Boulder County that would support that, but it's about reclaiming public spaces. And for some time now, I think we've certainly observed areas like San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, and Denver to some extent, allowing public spaces to be overrun with encampments, where there are those that may need services, and no doubt we want to make sure that we're being compassionate and reflecting the need to provide services. But for the 80% that are saying, no thanks, we don't want your services, we don't want your money, and by the way, we're going to openly commit crimes, we have to have a response to that. And our citizens, our taxpayers, our businesses are asking for that. So, with our homeless initiative, we really began a couple of years ago with the 4 C's. So leading with compassion, and that's recognizing that it's not a crime to be unhoused. And of course, our HEART team is a perfect example of that compassionate perspective. Not only have they had incredible success, but being paired with law enforcement has allowed them to go out in a very compassionate manner, not arresting people, but just creating a safe environment to ask questions, provide the dignity of asking their name. Who are you? How are things? What do you need in our community? and they've done a wonderful job. Again, our co-response model in Douglas County is mirrored very much on our mental health initiative co-response model, which once again, it's not just individuals in the behavioral health space or social work space going out, but they really are paired with law enforcement. I really want to compliment Sheriff Weekly, who reminded me and many others, we're lucky that our navigators have not been hurt, injured, harmed when they're going out, especially in difficult, circumstances with people that may be dangerous. So having law enforcement there, it's not an intent to criminalize or jail people that are in the house, but to make sure that our navigators are safe. And then, of course, if there is a crime being committed openly, that law enforcement is there and available. We got to shoot a video promoting the HEART team and what's going on. And it was so cool to see, Greg and his colleague out there, actually really in the same sphere of bonding and getting to know each other better. And that's part of the beauty of that co-response is building that team relationship so that they can address these issues really well. So that's that compassion piece. Code enforcement comes right behind that. And I think that may be where we've seen less comment in the state and national rhetoric. It's not a crime to be unhoused, but it's not a crime to commit a crime. And that's what we would say to our colleagues up in Denver. Again, no doubt we want to make sure we're providing services in an ethical, compassionate manner. But if there's open fentanyl abuse, drug deals, human trafficking, fighting, harassment, we are not going to turn a blind eye to that. And I don't know, Sheriff, if you want to add to that at all, just your philosophy.
No, I agree. And our citizens and our businesses have spoken loud and clear. They do not want homelessness to get a foothold in Douglas County. With that being the sheriff, I do not want my jail full of homeless individuals. That is not the purpose of this. We also do not want to violate the constitutional rights of our citizens to include our homeless population within Douglas County. I don't want to get sued. I know the county doesn't want to get sued. I know there was a lot of purpose and thoughtfulness and time that was taken to draft this ordinance. But again, we are going to enforce the law when it's appropriate. But we're only going to do that after these folks either violate the law, break the law, refuse services. But again, we're doing this based upon the fact that our citizens don't want homelessness to get a foothold. I'm pretty proud of our HEART team and the work that we've done. I'm proud of our county and the work that we've done. Again, this was not just a one meeting and determination of how we would proceed. I think we've done an excellent job.
Well, thank you for that, Sheriff. And if I could heap some praise, I was over at the Park Meadows ARPA Advisory Board meeting the other day and just anecdotally heard about some of the car theft crimes and how, they're using the Fox system now. That's all public information. And an individual was caught and was overheard saying, well, we shouldn't have come to luxury, which is exactly what we want to hear. We know that the bad guys talk. And for those that want to perpetrate crimes in our community, we're glad they know that this is not the right place to do that. So part of that code enforcement piece too, for many years we heard, well, right to rest and people can, have freedom of expression in public thoroughfares. That's true to a point. We share the philosophy, the sheriff, myself, I think this group, that if you are in an intersection actively soliciting donations and walking into thoroughfares where people are trying to turn off at 45, 50 miles an hour, that's an unsafe situation, both for the driver and the individual that's asking for funds. So from a public safety standpoint, especially if there's a pet or a child involved, that is something where our HEART team is going to be actively engaged. It's okay for our citizens to reach out and connect on that level. The camping ban is just a complement, I think, to the code enforcement in terms of reclaiming those public spaces and ensuring that we're keeping Douglas County clean and safe. So the next piece is our communications, and I just have to applaud Wendy Holmes, who I know is online. But really a lot of our partners, especially Castle Rock, helped design this sign around handouts don't help. And Jen, I don't know if you want to mention how many locations we currently have in Jefferson County.
We have 60 signs that are throughout the county. And we also have 8 no trespassing signs that are located on CDOT right of way on I-25 on off ramps and 470.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but anecdotally, it just seems like the panhandling has definitely dried up in Douglas County, even in the hot summer months. Part of it is our citizens are rule followers. When they see a sign that says don't give out money at intersections or handouts don't help, they tend to listen to that. Again, our philosophy here is not to give. And I see Mike Wade here. We are so thankful for our partnership with the Douglas County Community Foundation, where our citizens can give safely to a trusted 501c3, where those resources are provided in a really appropriate manner. So again, our philosophy in Douglas County is don't give out money at intersections, give to a trusted 501c3. And now because the signs are deployed everywhere, citizens can literally go straight to that signage, go to that URL and donate directly to Douglas County hasheart.org. Yeah, and the organizations that are going to benefit from the Handouts Don't Help campaign, we're looking at Family Tree, Winter Shelter Network, Help and Hope, and the Douglas County Homeless Initiative itself, where we can actually continue to fund our HEART team. Just going back to that co-response model, one thing we've noticed is that, when you're really successful, you're asked to do more work. So what we'd like to do, I think as a board and as the Homeless Initiative, is increase the number of HEART teams so that there's not just 3, but 5, and have that 24/7 availability so that if somebody picks up the phone, you're gonna have a live person on the other line. I work well with my colleagues throughout the region, the metro area county commissioners, and we've had the conversation around ensuring we are replicating a co-response model throughout the Denver metro region. The Denver group has a STAR team, and we're really appreciative of that. I share anecdotally after one of our MAC meetings downtown, I went to a Starbucks to get coffee, and there was an individual unhoused, harassing patrons, going up to the clerks, giving them a hard time. I thought, well, I'm gonna call this STAR team and see, how well this works. And I literally just sat on the phone for about 45 minutes. So part of it is to say, thank you to Denver. We appreciate Denver. We want to work well with Denver on the co-response model. But for us, we want to make sure that when you call that number, there's a live person on the other line that our citizens can trust to go out and address an issue. And not just, during a set number of hours, but certainly evening hours as well. So 24/7, moving to 5 would be the goal. And we can do that through community donations, additional grants, because of the great work of our staff, Rand, Jen, and others. We just got a $1.6 million grant for our HEART team to increase those services. And again, it's because of the great work that they're doing. So again, we really believe in co-response in terms of those services. So again, going back to those community services, we do have here our reintegration deputy. One of the things we heard from Castle Rock was, as people leave the Justice Department, the Justice Center, they are wandering into our public spaces, going to bridges and parks. And having a reintegration deputy stationed at the Justice Center, and we have several of those, Nicole and a few other representatives here with us, providing some additional support there, where if an individual are returning citizens, we'll call them criminals, but they're returning citizens, they get access to mental health counseling, job counseling, services for reintegration, as well as transportation. So you all, as well as the Board of County Commissioners, authorized a vehicle for people to be able to be transported wherever they need to go. So again, part of that is giving people resources once they leave our Justice Center from a transportation standpoint. So those are the 4 C's, and the focus continues to be to work well within the county and throughout the region to ensure we're doing a great job. I think the hope and the ultimate goal of this entire homeless initiative is to get to functional zero. We're now at 27 identified unsheltered individuals. We know that there's still a sheltered homeless population, those that are couch surfing that you don't necessarily see. But our hope, I think, as a group is to get to that functional zero number. And the way we hope to do that is through increased communications, community services, and support for our HEART team. So just a brief recap of where we've been for the last couple of years, and none of it would have been possible without you all. So thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Yeah.
So, Commissioner, I just want to echo your comments on compassion. All Health Network is by far the fastest growing community mental health center in the state, and that's in no small part because of the support of Douglas County. I think the homeless initiative that you spoke to is really only as good as the support for individuals that need housing and need mental health services. Not everybody who's homeless is mentally ill, but many of them are. All Health Network is looking at a significant investment in expansion of services in Douglas County with the support of Douglas County government. We appreciate that. We're looking at a walk-in center. We're looking at crisis stabilization unit for youth. And probably now, if we can get a little support on some zoning issues for adults, crisis stabilization and acute treatment unit as well. So if we couple what we're talking about with needed services and affordable housing, I think this can be a very compassionate plan and probably a model for other areas of the country.
Well, thank you so much for that. We greatly appreciate the support of All Health. I think the secret sauce in Douglas County is we all link arms across a lot of different departments, and we do our best to stay in close contact on this project. So thank you. Additional questions, comments? No, we'll say, hey, Jill.
Community, I just want to
Oh,
say,
thank you. I appreciate that, Jill.
Deputy Sheriff Weekly, I've used the police officers myself. When I've served the homeless, I've needed some support, and I applaud the compassion in this community. It's remarkable.
Jill, thank you for that.
Sorry, my view is Denver, San Francisco, and I think a little bigger, but this, I need to say, if I come to these meetings, say what you're doing here, Abe, and it's incredible.
Appreciate that, Jill. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
So with that, we'll move on to the town of Castle Rock.
And again, Max Brooks, council member. I serve as the alternate on this board. I'm stepping in for Mayor Jason Gray today, who's unavailable. Typically, I would just phone in, zoom in. It's nice to be able to see everybody in person. You know, we're at this part of the agenda simply because we have an ordinance to discuss, and it was pertinent, very similar to what Douglas County has done, except ours is specific to floodplains and storm drains. Perhaps you saw our director of water, Mark Marlowe, on Channel 7. We did have a media request. We hadn't had a whole lot of direct questions outside of the media, but he did handle a media request. If you saw that interview, you probably saw an encampment that was within a storm drain, which is a very dangerous situation, especially with the unprecedented amount of rain we've been having this season, particularly. So really, the intent of the ordinance was sure to clean up, make sure that the water supplies don't get contaminated, but then also just for public safety, because we don't want to see any accidents around the floodplains, any issues with people that have been camping in storm drains. The ordinance is consistent with what we have in neighboring municipalities, and then also federal regulations as well. I'd like to echo some of the comments that have been made about the amount of time that went into this. I'm going to take a very brief amount of time summarizing, this for you. However, that is not a reflection whatsoever of the amount of time that went into the process. It follows every ordinance process that the town has. It went before the Water Commission first, which is a public meeting, and then it came before Town Council on the Water Board's recommendation. Town Council did not have any public comment that night, so there wasn't anybody that came one way or the other to oppose or to speak in favor of it. And Town Council did pass that ordinance unanimously. I think the big piece of this, again, kind of speaking to the compassion element of what Douglas County does, is that we will continue to offer resources to those that may be in need, and offer professional resources also for cleanup of any encampments. I did see Sergeant Torrance of CRPD online, so if there are any questions specific to the ordinance as far as enforcement goes, you'd be able to handle that. But if you have any questions, certainly I'd be happy to answer them as best I can.
Thank you, Councilmember Brooks. Really appreciate the partnership with Castle Rock, and really all of our municipalities. Any questions for Castle Rock? Thank you. I know we had a few guests join us, some familiar faces. Do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
I'm Owen Brickner. I work for Denver City Council. I work for Councilwoman Amanda Sawyer. She represents District 5, which is the east portion of Denver. Happy to be here.
Well, I just met with Amanda recently, and she is phenomenal. Thank you so much for being here. We greatly appreciate the partnership.
Aurora with District Attorney John Kellner, take appointed privilege. We're gonna have a town hall with Sheriff Weekly August 2nd at the Highlands Ranch Library.
Awesome. Thanks, Aurora. We appreciate it. So with that, are there any other questions for Castle Rock? Okay, so we'll just move on to our heart update with Tiffany Crucito.
So from June 1st through June 30th, we received 105 referrals. 64% of those were from law enforcement. We had 16 community partners reach out to us regarding individuals who are experiencing homelessness, 16 citizen calls, and 6 public referrals. 61 of the 105 were contacted by HEART. We were unable to locate 22 of those. 10 refused follow-up and 4 were unoccupied camps that have been since cleaned. 95 were unduplicated for the month of June out of that 105 referrals that were sent in to us. And regarding the case management services that HEART is providing, in June, we provided new ongoing case management to 21 clients. 9 were referred to nonprofit community partners. 6 were referred to a shelter of their choosing. 2 were referred to employment assistance. 15 were assisted with food. 2 were referred to mental health. 7 assisted with housing support. And 1 was referred to our faith-based or non-profit community partners for hotel vouchers. And our fabulous deputies were able to give 11 clients transportation assistance. So the success story for this month, one of our HEART navigators, Will, who's in the room today, came across a male veteran who had been struggling with homelessness and sobriety in Parker. He was referred to the Bridge House Ready to Work program. They've been to a couple of our meetings and presented, and he was accepted the same day into their facility. He's now working full-time, connected to the VA and Volunteers of America. So we couldn't be more proud of Will for getting him into the Bridge House and another individual off the street.
A round of applause for Will.
And then just to piggyback on the Bridge House, the HEART navigators referred 5 individuals to the Bridge House last month. They were initially accepted into the program. Some of those individuals, if they didn't end up qualifying after their initial assessment with their intake staff, the staff was able to find the appropriate place for them to go and were able to help navigate them to a safe shelter, safe housing, in the surrounding areas of the Denver metro area. So also, one last update, HEART will be conducting our summer point in time on the night of July 24th. And then we will also be participating at the Strive to Thrive event at the Cherry Hills Church on the 25th of July from 4 to 6. So if anybody wants to come and check out the community resources that are being provided, they can come to the Strive to Thrive event. That's all that I have.
That's great. Way to go, HEART. Any questions for the HEART team?
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
We have our
Yes,
update and share.
that's right.
Yeah, just a couple things, over the last couple months. Our unit received a referral for a female being evicted in Highlands Ranch. Our civil unit who handles evictions, contacted our CRT team. Our unit received a referral around the same time from Human Services. CRT addressed some mental health issues that she needed to go spend the night in a hospital. The next day we tried following up with her. She didn't want anything to do with us. Nothing unusual, but our other departments of the sheriff's office do reach out to us, our civil unit, CRT, DHS. Another case that we were working on for the last few months. Our unit, Lone Tree Police Department, contacted a female amongst a couple other individuals near Swagger Ranch off Havana. Some legal issues were discovered. There was a warrant that needed to be addressed, and then some new charges had to be filed that were unavoidable in this situation. She got sentenced to our jail. The HEART unit continued to follow up with her in the jail. So I brought Will and Tiffany, definitely brought Will down to the jail a few times, touched base with her. Our jail reintegration team also stayed in touch with her while she completed her sentence. We established a plan that as soon as she was done with her sentence, got her up to the Bridge House. The Bridge House found a more suitable facility for her while she finishes out her other legal cases in the metro area. Our stipulation that we had, if you will, was, and she wants to go back to New Mexico. In order for that to happen, she needs to clear up her local cases. So we're not sending her out of state and she gets a warrant for failing to appear for a court case or violating a judge's order for leaving the state. So we still stay in touch with her. As soon as she says everything's cleared up, and we'll help her with her long-term goal to return to her family down in New Mexico. Lastly, Deputy Ward and I went through a bicycle operations training. So we are starting to hit trails, ride trails, increase patrol, trails throughout the county. That's including Cherry Creek Trail in Parker, Plum Creek Trail here in Castle Rock, as well as the C-470 and Highline Canal trails, which also kind of fall in our hot areas, if you will. It's an awesome thing. The public loves seeing it. I think the public's a little shocked seeing an officer on a bicycle to begin with. But we get a lot of praise from citizens. They'll stop their bikes, talk with us. We're also hearing about stuff that's happening on the trails that's not really easily accessible by a vehicle. So that's all I have.
That's fantastic. And again, the benefit of having law enforcement paired with navigation, it's just really a wonderful team effort. And you know, it's seasonal too. I mean, if it's warm weather, you're gonna be on bikes. If you're in a parade, you're on a horse. I mean, if you're during the winter months, you're gonna be in different vehicles. So I think we support that. Any additional questions for Hart? Well, that's a nice segue. I know you talked a little bit about sentencing and what happens in the judicial system, and I know we have some work here on that. The next item today is the 18th Judicial District Attorney's Office. Eric Storgard, Senior Deputy District Attorney, presenting. Welcome and thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Up here. Yes, it's up ahead.
The housekeeping thing while people are, so let's get ready. There's restrooms just behind us and there's water right over here.
Thanks, Ian.
All right, so again, my name is Eric Storgard. I'm the Chief Deputy District Attorney for Douglas County. Specifically, I oversee the unit that prosecutes all misdemeanor, traffic, and petty offenses in Douglas County. If you want to go to the next page. Today, just in the brief time we have, I wanted to touch base on three things. Number one is just kind of the general crime numbers that we're seeing with homeless defendants, criminal trespass in particular, because that is what I think is kind of the private equivalent of the public camping ban that's going to be passed here soon, and then also our role in that new camping ban. So first, our limitation is kind of on data. So you know, the DA's office across the state, our case management system, does not systematically track defendants that are homeless. So the way that we can actually get kind of down to the bottom of if they're homeless or not is number one, reviewing individual cases if that case sample is small enough. And the second way is to look at community justice services. For those of you that don't know, Community Justice Services does a pretrial bond report for every single defendant that is arrested in Douglas County and brought to the Douglas County Jail, who also does not immediately post bond and has to see the judge. All the numbers from Community Justice Services are going to be self-reported, so we can look at what defendants were arrested, came to the jail, and self-reported that they were homeless on that pre-trial bond report. So looking specifically at what Community Justice Services has, go to the next one. A little over 4% of arrested defendants self-reported as homeless. And I want to make clear, this is not saying that 4% of the crimes that happen in Douglas County are happening because defendants are homeless or by defendants who are homeless. This is simply defendants who, one, got arrested, two, could not immediately post bail, and then also self-reported as homeless. So we're about 4% of the cases that are actually coming to jail are looking at homeless. I know it's kind of small on here, as you can kind of see, the type of crime we're seeing by these individuals, it runs the gamut. The biggest ones on here are going to be, these are most severe charges, drugs at a little over 20%, motor vehicle theft, and other type of financial crimes. But there's no real rhyme or reason. They're committing all sorts of crimes when they come into our office. And on the second one, this breaks it up between the type of offense. About 60% are some sort of misdemeanor offense, about 40% are some sort of felony offense, so they're doing both. The next one. So what I really focused on here is criminal trespass. And the reason is because criminal trespass, I think, is the most closest equivalent to what you guys are going to see with the camping ban, which is the public aspect of being someplace you're not supposed to be, camping, loitering, and the criminal trespass is the private aspect of that. So the type of crimes we're looking at here are number one, third-degree trespass. This is an individual who unlawfully remains or stays on a premise of another private property. And then also second-degree trespass, which is the same thing, except it's a property that's either enclosed, either it's fenced or designed to keep people out, or it's the common areas of motels, apartments, condominiums, things like that. These are all petty offenses. The maximum sentence for these criminal trespasses is up to 10 days in the county jail and a $300 fine. Prior to Senate Bill 21271, these were either a petty offense for a class 3, which carried with it a maximum jail sentence of up to 180 days, or a class 3 misdemeanor for the second degree trespass, which also carried with it a possible penalty of up to 180 days in county jail. So since that bill has passed, all of these now just have a maximum of 10 days in county jail, and you can see a little bit why that affects what we're doing on these cases. So in Douglas County, since the beginning of 2021, we've had about 4,600 misdemeanor and petty offense cases. The number of citations that we received that were criminal trespass is pretty small. It's only 69 cases. So that's a small enough number of cases that we can actually individually go into those cases and review how many of those involve homeless individuals. Which we did in this case, a little under 50%. So 31 of those criminal trespass misdemeanor cases involved homeless individuals who were camping or loitering on private property. So what's the outlook on these particular cases when we see them in courts? The first thing to know on these cases, and I don't think this is surprising, almost 65% fail to appear at least once in court. Most of them fail to appear multiple times. The average is actually about 2 for all the cases. So defendants who are arrested for a trespass who are homeless, who get a personal recognizance bond, so they're released from court immediately without posting anything, most likely going to fail to appear at least one more time. When we do get these cases in, these are obviously low-level offenses, and the goal of the DA's office is not just to throw all of them in jail. The best option we think for these cases is to get them some sort of treatment. Number one, that's going to keep them from getting that offense again, and hopefully keep them from committing a more serious offense. For us, the DA's office, we only have 2 real ways to force the defendant to do something. Number one, it sends them probation, then they get treatment with the probation officer, if required to do treatment, counseling, help them with housing, help them with work, or through our diversion program, which is similar to probation, except it's without a conviction. But they still have to do classes. We try to provide them resources through that. The biggest problem we have is that it is very difficult to incentivize homeless defendants to accept probation or diversion on these cases. So kind of just run through a typical type of case that we see when a defendant who is homeless gets cited for criminal trespass, or they're given a citation or arrested. They're most likely not going to appear if they get a citation. They're going to get a bench warrant issued for their arrest. They're going to be picked up by the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, be taken to the jail. Most likely, they're going to get a very low bond. We're talking like $100. They're not going to be able to post that. They're going to see the judge the next day. Bond's hopefully not going to get reduced because they're not going to show up for the next time. We get the reports from the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, from Lone Tree, whoever the law enforcement agency is. We give those reports to public defenders. They have to review those. They have to find time to go down to the jail to talk to their clients, to give them the options about the potential deals. By the time all that happens, we're looking at 4 to 5 days that they're already sitting in jail before they're ready to appear in court again to potentially resolve that case. So what the defendants are looking at are basically 2 options. One, we can give them probation diversion. They're looking at 6 months to a year under the supervision of somebody else. They're going to be required to meet with a probation officer or the diversion counselor, do classes, do treatment, or they can do 4 or 5 more days in jail and be done with their case completely. If you want to go to the next page, I think not surprisingly, they almost all accept that second option. Take a couple more days, and then they're done with their case. As you can see there with our criminal trespass case, homeless defendants, jail sentences, 65% of the cases. But then context for all of our misdemeanor and traffic offenses throughout our jurisdiction, for jail, it's 20%. So it's significantly higher for homeless defendants. But I can tell you the reason is they're not accepting probation or our conversion offers because they know they can get out pretty quickly on those. You also see fine only, 18%. We have that option as well. I can tell you, we looked up every single one of those fine cases. Not a single one of those has paid any amount into a fine. It's not really an effective option, but sometimes the judges on open pleas will leave a fine only. They're just not getting paid on those cases. The few that have accepted probation, they're not successful. From what we've seen, they get revoked because they don't meet with the probation officer. They don't comply with treatment. And then they end up back in the jail and they're getting that jail sentence to close up that case. I'm gonna go to the next page. All right, so what is our role in the new camping ban? So this creates a civil infraction for violation of the ordinance. These cases are gonna be heard by the Douglas County Magistrate, which is gonna be Magistrate Brewer in the First Appearance Center, the Justice Center down the road. Our role in this is statutorily limited for civil infractions. So what the statute says, if you go to the next page, the DA can, but is not required to, at the DA's discretion, to enter into these civil infraction cases to help negotiate a potential resolution on those cases. This is the same for traffic infractions. I can tell you that DA Kellner has elected not to do this on any civil infraction or traffic infraction. He's not unique in that. DA Brockler, DA Chambers before him, none of them have ever elected to have the DAs enter into these civil infraction or traffic infraction cases for negotiation. It's just simply a manpower issue. We don't have the manpower to be able to do that. But even if we were to enter and do these negotiations, if the defendant doesn't want to take that deal for whatever reason, let me go to the next page. We are statutorily prohibited from representing the state in court. So if they want a court trial, they get it. We just can't help out with that. That's going to be the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. In this particular case, their deputies are going to have to show up in court and essentially be the prosecutors on those particular cases. So with the violation of the ordinance, the only charge, we're not going to handle it. It's going to be handled entirely by the Sheriff's Office. If there happens to be a case where the ordinance is charged along with a more serious offense, for example, there's a camping ban, but also their possession of drugs, they have somebody else's credit cards, we will handle those cases because there's going to be a misdemeanor or felony charge along with it. I can tell you in those cases, though, obviously our biggest concern is not going to be the camping ban. It's going to be prosecuting those defendants or having those credit cards or having those drugs, those types of cases. Last page here. Unlike our petty offenses and misdemeanors, the magistrate cannot issue warrants for failure to appear for the camping ban ordinance. So no one is going to ever get arrested for these offenses because it's not allowed. But if they fail to appear, it's just going to be an automatic conviction for that civil infraction. The court's going to issue a fine. I think as you guys saw from that slide and our success in collecting those fines, I would doubt we're going to get a lot of money coming in to the system through those convictions of civil infractions. So that's all I have. I think the big takeaway, obviously, from this hopefully is that the best resources you guys have is what's going on at the Sheriff's Office through the reintegration program. Really, when they are going through the jail, we're just hoping that they take advantage of what DCSO is offering when they get out of the jail, because really we don't have a lot of options at the DA's office to force them to do anything in these particular cases. They'll serve their 10 days.
Great, well, thank you, Garrick. Any questions for the DA's office? Sounds like a really challenged system. I appreciate all your work and obviously know that the DA's office is going through a lot right now. You guys have a manpower issue and you're doing as much as you can to address crime in our community as we're transitioning to JD 23. Obviously a lot going on. One of the conversations that I know we've had, we did a tour of Step Denver where the director of that program was a homeless individual that got released on unsupervised probation. And part of the deal was, listen, you focus on your sobriety, we're gonna just let you do what you need to do. And he worked his way through that program and ended up becoming sort of leadership, peer mentoring, and then now one of the directors down there. So we really like Step Denver. And I think one of the conversations we've had is around that sentencing component and the role of the DA's office. I mean, for those that have co-occurring offenses, I mean, obviously if it's just homelessness, it's gonna be 10 days and you're out, but I mean, I don't know, Tiffany, how many folks that you encounter have warrants out for their arrest or committing other crimes in addition to what you're seeing?
Can you speak to
don't have the numbers, sometimes it seems like every person we talk to for that day, they've got some sort of warrant situation. Some of them are nothing we can do about it in Douglas County. They're valid over certain areas of the state or fall outside the extradition limits. And then other days, you don't come across anyone. It's all over the place. So
Would you say half or more than half?
I think half is probably a good start. So.
So I'm thinking when you pick up those individuals, they're gonna be facing more than just 10 days. And so I'm wondering what the incentive might be for those individuals to be released on unsupervised or supervised probation. Right. And one of the reasons we talk about that, I mean, this is all interrelated. I'm chairman of the opioid settlement committee as well with my colleague Roger Hudson from Castle Pines. And one of the things we're talking about and have already funded is MAT, detox, and then also additional funding for the Douglas County Heart Team. So through the opioid settlement, which will get, up to $18 million over several years, and that fund is increasing, more money can flow through that opioid settlement back to the Heart Team and other, entities and nonprofits that are working in this space. But I'm just wondering, is there room for growth around, the specialty courts and opportunities for unsupervised probation?
I think the biggest challenge is going to be individuals who are homeless getting to where they need to get to be able to successfully complete whatever requirements they have. Diversion is kind of our hopeful unsupervised probation type of thing where they don't even have to plead guilty. They have to do certain requirements and then there's never a conviction on that case. But the problem is when we send individuals who can't get to diversion, can't get to those classes, they're just never going to be able to do that treatment. So that's the biggest thing with unsupervised. When we do regular probation, there's at least somebody who's looking over them the entire time. I know there's someone from probation here. I would guess the success rate is not super high as well. Same way they can't meet with a probation officer. If they have to go to do drug treatment, they can't find a way to get there for whatever the reason. It's a really difficult issue. I can tell you, we are more than happy to continually give probation, unsupervised probation, diversion to these individuals, assuming they're not committing serious offenses. We just tend to see that they come back to court. We're left with, we'll try again. They come back to court again. And at some point, we're left like, it's not going to work out. We got to do something to close this case out another way.
So that's one of the nice things about being here is we have people in the room for reintegration and probation. I don't know, Nicole, others, any thoughts around that reintegration piece?
Definitely, I mean, we see it, we have someone specific to our team from JBBS and All Health fights the multiple offenders. So they've been incarcerated 3 or more times in the past calendar years, and we deploy our case management, our wraparound services, try to get them connected to treatment post-release, and then as well as maybe we give them a track phone so they can attend court through their cell phones. So just something to try to help that, transportation passes to get them back to court. Reminders of, hey, your court case is coming up. So working with Heart Team, goodness, it seems like I've seen you guys a lot lately. It's great to keep that communication going and work it from all different sides just to see what is successful.
Anything else from probation?
I mean, I would just echo everything that's been said. We try everything we can before we send them back to court. We have the ability to voucher things, voucher treatment. Because a lot of the times finances aren't there. A big piece is there's no transportation here in Douglas County. So it's like, get to Ridgegate and then we can give you a voucher for the RTD system. With COVID, kind of the benefit that came from it is a lot of things are virtual now, including treatment. There are virtual treatment options. So instead of having to get their body somewhere, let's find you a place with Wi-Fi, if you can connect that way. So we do everything we can before we're sending them back to court on any type of violation, but it's still.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for all of your work in space and all three of you. I mean, this is just a partnership. Greatly appreciate the DA's office and reintegration. But I think that's one of the reasons we have the vehicles. That's why Heart has the vehicles and the reintegration officer has an additional one is to help with transportation. I know for our next homeless initiative meeting, we're having the representative from Step Denver come to present and talk about how that can work. And is Step Denver, and help me understand, is it residential unsupervised probation? Is it because they can live there as well as get the unsupervised probation rate?
Rand, I didn't.
And I'm looking at Nicole because we refer folks up there. So yes, it is for those that don't have a home, it's a residential treatment facility. For those that don't have a place to live, and you need to undergo treatment.
Yeah.
And we can of course ask more questions next month.
Yeah.
The gentleman who's coming, we heard his story together, is amazing. Grew up in Douglas County, found himself on the wrong side of a lot of things in life and has really turned his life around, and now is a program leader there in Manchester. So really powerful to hear from our own, which is why we want to invite him back. But I think we can ask him those questions.
Yeah.
And follow up.
Yeah, great segue for the next meeting, but I think it's, because if we have the transportation to a residential treatment facility that's unsupervised, and if they have co-occurring crimes where the jail sentence would be longer, maybe there's an incentive to work through that program. More to come. Any other questions on this? Really good presentation, guys, appreciate it. So with that, we'll move on to our public awareness update from Ms. Wendy Holmes. Wendy? Wendy,
I think that I'm unmuted now, sir. I'm so sorry. Luke, are you ready to navigate this from afar?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. If I may, let's begin with the landing page of the Homeless Initiative web section of the county's website. We're prepared to report today some significant content that's been updated on this page that I think everyone will be interested in. So at the top of the page, I think you can see that we've placed the RTD Transit Watch app. And Luke, if you can help by clicking on that app to show folks in the audience there, right here from that landing page now, you can see how to download the app so that you can safely report any safety and security concerns to RTD 24/7. If you happen to be on the train or the bus and you see something, say something. And I think those of you recall, we heard from the new chief of police for RTD. He was telling us about that app. We wanted to let you know that it was up on the page. Luke, if we can go next, please, to the new Homeless Initiative business information page. Please let me know when you're there, sir.
It's loading.
It is loading. Thank you.
Yep. All right, we are there.
Okay, thank you. The business initiative information, the business information page. Let's scroll down a little bit, and you can see the first thing you'll see is there's the section on the page for the trespass letters. So if you wanted to obtain a trespass letter from the any one of the police departments, tells you how to do that. The sheriff's office, it shows you how to do that. Explains what the trespass letter tool does for you. This is new, it is up, it is live, and I know we've been waiting for this for a long time. If you continue to scroll down that page, you can see other resources there. Let's just stop on the next one if we can. And what are we looking at right now, Rand?
We're loading up the business resource page on how to download signs.
How to download signs. So all of those handouts, help signs, if you want printed copies, posters, etc., that is where you can find your artwork to do so. Then followed by that, you've got information about HEART. And then below that, you can see encampment cleanups. There's a referral there. This section of the Homeless Initiative web area is just for the business community. Below that is you have business FAQs. Our next step here is to work directly with the chambers and the EDCs. to ask for their promotional support of this page to support the business communities in Douglas County. If we can go next to the code enforcement page, please. We wanted you to see when we're ready. On the code enforcement page, scroll down just a little bit, you'll see there's your information on the camping and tent ban ordinance. That's new. Are we good, Rand?
Yeah, it's just taking a moment to load the page is all,
All right.
but we're up now.
All right, and so if you scroll down, you can see, and you can click on there, Rand, information on the camping ban ordinance. That's where to find it. As I've told you before, Google has a tendency to favor our website. And so these things can be found just Googling or going to the county website and searching in our own search section there.
The actual ordinance is posted as well.
There you go. The ordinance, and then frequently asked questions regarding the camping ban ordinance. So that's a great resource. And then just one more thing. On Friday of last week, we spent the day with HART. As many of you know, one of the most frequent questions we hear is, what is HART and what do they do and why does it matter and how do they fit into this entire picture of mitigating the unsheltered and supporting the unsheltered in Douglas County. So on Friday, we spent a day in the life with HART, capturing video. We were with Sheriff Weekly, Commissioner Layden, and by the end of this month, we will have that HART video. Hopefully we show it. The goal is to show it to you all at the next Homeless Initiative meeting. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Well, Wendy, that is just incredible. And I think that's an important point, is that there's a lot of search engine optimization and web analytics, which the Douglas County sites. So as we promote things around the homeless initiative, Google does tend to favor that for whatever reason. So for the municipalities in the room, if you have mirrored language or issues you want us to support on the website, we can do that. So it gets the top hits, thinking about Castle Rock in particular. But any questions for Wendy? After hours. Wendy, I know you were under the weather and you still showed up and gave us a presentation, so thank you so much for doing that.
You bet, sir.
Any comments about our signage? I want to make a quick point about our Douglas County Economic Development Collaborative and the business community. And I don't know if do we have a business representative here? Normally we have Terry's Pizza here, but you know, we know as a result of the horrible incident where there was the stabbing last year and some of the issues the business community has encountered, particularly in areas up north that are higher density, Parker, Lone Tree, Highlands Ranch, for the Costco's and the Home Depots and the King Soopers that don't know what to do or how to do it. Having that trespass letter on file, working with the sheriff's office, and then being able to just download a sign. You don't have to have the street signage. They can simply print it off. The website, graphically put it up however they want. I believe Pam Kelly from Park Meadows is actually putting them up in the kiosks at the mall in a few places. But literally, it's giving businesses every opportunity to address the issue well. Any other comments? Marissa, yeah, Lone Tree, yeah.
Marissa, Lone Tree City Council. I just wanted to comment. Thank you for giving a landing page with all of the information. Wendy, you did a great job making sure it's all easily accessible in one page, really transparent. So I think the business community, it'd be really nice to be able to direct other businesses to that page for more information. So thank you for that.
That was your leadership. I remember Lone Tree and Councilmember Harmon specifically asked for, you know, some information because I think you had a lot of citizens and businesses asking, you know, what is this? How can we address this issue? So thank you for your leadership in directing us accordingly. I think we have good info now. Mike.
So on a personal level, not from Douglas County Community Foundation, I just wanted to give Wendy Holmes a big shout out because as an avid fisherman, one of the things, well, fisherman, not catcherman, because I do a lot of fishing, but not a lot of catching, but before work frequently, I'll pop, I live in Parker, I'll pop up to Big Lake just to get a lure in the water here and there. And the trash containers there have the large handouts don't help posters on that. And the other day, as I was walking through, I saw two late teen, early 20 anglers standing there looking at it. And as I walked by, I heard one go, "That's cool." And so just as a piece of feedback out there, that people are seeing the signs and recognizing the signs. And obviously, the next item I'll talk about their generosity because of the signs, but they're out there, they're getting seen, and the publicity of it's wonderful.
Mike, thank you for that. And nothing better than hearing directly from, what's happening out in the community. And we don't do things that don't make sense. We're not gonna throw money at projects that we're not getting a return on investment, but we're seeing a 46% reduction in homelessness. We're seeing panhandling dry up, and our citizens are being very responsive to the campaign. So I think we'll continue to fund those. So that's a great segue to your update. So we've got the Douglas Has Heart distribution to the Douglas County Homeless Initiative. Mike Wade, our executive director.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity, and it's really exciting to be on this side of the game, talking about how the Handouts Don't Help campaign is making a real difference in the organizations where the rubber meets the road. Douglas County Community Foundation, just as an update for those who aren't familiar with us, we do a lot of things, but one of them is that we manage philanthropic resources throughout the counties on behalf of individuals, companies, and other agencies. And this specific program is pretty cool. When you go to DouglasHasHeart.org, and you see the Handouts Don't Help sign, it takes you to an opportunity for people to be philanthropic without having to have the risk of handing the dollars out their window of someone's, at a busy intersection. And what's really cool with this is that because of the generosity and support of our governmental partners like Douglas County and town of Castle Rock and the city of Castle Pines, we're able to provide the management of these funds for free without any cost to the donors or to the county. So 100% of the donations that come in through this program go back out the door to the nonprofit organizations that are making that real difference, boots on the ground. So the cool part here that I think is that since this program started and we've raised over $5,600 during that time, most of that money has come in the $25 to $50 range, little individual donations that people have made. It's also pretty cool because we've had several other community organizations, unsolicited, a check will show up from their club or organization saying, "Hey, we heard about this program and we had a little fundraiser and we'd like to send you the money based on that." So the way the program works is that there's four organizations, the four organizations that were shown earlier on the presentation. And as we raise money, when we hit that $2,500 threshold, $2,500 goes back out the door to those organizations in order. And we shake and repeat. The distributions happen once a quarter. That's what we're doing today. So ostensibly, if we had $10,000 come into a quarter, all four organizations would receive a check at that next presentation. So today represents the second time that we're able to do this. And this one is for the Douglas County Homeless Initiative. So we've got the big, huge Publishers Clearinghouse check up here, and I'd love to get I know we've got ready for a picture. So before we do that, does anybody have any questions for me on DCCF or the program?
Well, once again, amazing community partner. The Douglas County Community Foundation is the Red Cross of Douglas County. And, that kind of partnership allows us to do what we do. So thank you for
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Any questions for the Community Foundation? Let's take a big photo. How about that?
Let's get a big check over here.
Yeah.
I even put on a jacket for this today, so this is.
Where do you want us?
Let's have your back. Come on, our team. Have you guys behind the check? Yeah.
As tall as the check.
Come on up, guys. If you are members of the Homeless Initiative, come on up.
Yep, everybody who's part of it, come on up.
Greg was in the last.
See? There's no shaking your head, no, come on, you gotta. Skyscraper. I just don't want anyone's taser to go off behind me. Yeah. Are we level? Level in.
Do I need to be on my tippy toes?
That's why I was asking.
Come up a little bit.
There we go. All right.
Count of three, 1, 2, 3. And these two almost. Count three, 1, 2. All right, awesome. Way to go.
The rest of the
Yeah.
So you got a picture of that. Right, do one with it. Yeah, I know.
Like.
Yeah, exactly.
Neighbor. I like it. So that's wonderful, and really quickly, one of the reasons we're getting those donations is because of all of the sign deployment. And Jen just had a quick update on specific locations for the signs.
Yeah, I do have an update to report. I said 60 signs, I should have said 66 because the town of Parker has worked within the last month to add 6 more signs. So the green signs you see there on the east side of the map are the new signs that have been installed at mainly Parker's trailheads. I'd say 5 of those signs are at the trailheads and then 1 is at Parker Recreation Center. And after talking to the folks in Parker, they have told me that the majority of the activity that they see is really around those trailheads. So I think that's exciting news and we're certainly happy to see that. So we are up to 66.
That's awesome. Great to hear.
And the only other thing I would mention is I've also noticed around on the CDOT property that we're starting to see one such testing on the CDOT property. So coming off of I-25 onto County Line, where you would generally see a lot of panhandling, I have noticed that there are CDOT signs also saying.
Yeah, we'll have to look and see if they
I
have.
don't know how many of those are,
Yeah.
but those weren't there before.
Yeah. So is my barometer, Dan McKelvey's neighborhood.
Yeah.
You'll have to let us know.
This is true.
But there's no pride in authorship here, and I think that, you know, what's really great is we want to work well with our municipalities and our neighbors. And I've had some conversations with Dustin Simonek and others at Aurora City Council around the encampments along 225. And that's an important comment, is that CDOT will provide that signage there. And the additional aspect is that it's just not a safe place for people to camp right off of a major thoroughfare. So hopefully we get some support from CDOT to address that encampment. But thank you for that. Yeah, good.
No, I'm sorry. I was actually just checking to see what number Castle Rock was that number, and if there are other locations that we might be able to put some additional. Absolutely.
We can probably tell you, you know, right?
I don't know off the top of my head, but they're down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5. So those must be Douglas County properties.
Okay.
Inside.
Well, thank you for that partnership. So that is it for our program today. We do have executive committee member updates and public comment. Let me just ask if any member of the executive committee has any comments. Quiet group, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to mention, I see Maria online with the Douglas County Housing Partnership. That's another board that I sit on and am just thrilled and amazed with what they're doing with their efforts, and I'm just a big supporter of that partnership. I just wanted to mention, because I saw her online.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Maria, thank you. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. I appreciate being part of this group and all the work everyone is doing to support housing throughout our county. Thanks so much.
You bet. You always bring such a positive attitude and a willingness to collaborate. We greatly value that.
Absolutely. We're doing great work.
Great. So with that, we'll open it up for any public comment. Is there any public comment today? Any public comment? Okay, well, hearing none, we will adjourn for today. Thank you so much, everyone. What's the date of our next? The 5 is, all right. So you guys have.
Back in Millersville.
Yes, that was.
Yeah.
Let's give them to me.
13.
No, 13.